Okay, who's winning?
That now I feel like I'm winning.
Big or
Hmm.
small?
Big,
Big or huge?
huge.
Huge. How did you get to huge?
I reminded myself what I could be doing instead.
Yeah.
That is equally as pleasurable, if not more. That doesn't have these yucky consequences of blurring eyes and mind numbing.
Hello, and welcome to the Feeling Good podcast, where you can learn powerful techniques to change the way you feel. I am your host, Dr. Rhonda Borowski, and joining me here in the Murrieta studio is Dr. David Burns. Dr. Burns is a pioneer in the development of cognitive behavioral therapy and the creator of the new Team Therapy. He is the author of Feeling Good, which has sold over 5 million copies in the United States and has been translated into over 30 languages. His latest book, Feeling Great, contains powerful new techniques that make rapid recovery possible for many people struggling with depression and anxiety. Dr. Burns is currently an emeritus adjunct professor of clinical psychiatry at Stanford University School of Medicine.
Hello, Rhonda.
Hello, David, and welcome to all of our listeners around the country and the world and throughout the galaxy. This is the Feeling Good podcast and episode 431. And that third voice you heard is Brandon Vance, who is a very beloved Team CBT psychiatrist. He's the founder of the Feeling Good or Feeling Great book club. He also does lots and lots of team related educational groups like the book club and um, the app group,
Hmm.
and you do
Five
five
secrets.
secrets practice.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are all awesome.
I,
And
I would
today,
say a pioneer in new ways of developing mental health to people in need and getting away from this traditional 50-minute hour once a week where you go and talk to one person and it goes on and on. And it's more like working with a group of people based on reading a book like Feeling Great or Feeling Good or using the app or something else and meeting weekly for kind of like 80-minute inexpensive sessions to learn about things, to practice techniques, to connect with other people who were struggling with some of the same things. And it's very exciting because it's thinking outside of the box and thinking about new and more fun and more effective ways of being helpful to people and community and creating a sense of community at the same time instead of a sense of isolation where you go and you sneak into the shrink's office and lie on the couch for 50 minutes and hope nobody knows you're there and stuff like that.
nice.
So much, David. That's so nice.
Yeah.
You've really inspired me because you lay out things in such a clear way, in such an accessible way. And I know you all have talked before about just reading, feeling good, that there have been studies on that as being very helpful in terms of depression. And and I've also found that groups and the pandemic also inspired me with that coming together in groups of people has all those added benefits of community and of support and even an accountability. Um, so that's been very fulfilling to run some groups.
Yeah. Yeah, not only accountability that they get in the groups for following through on homework
Yeah.
and doing what you have to do to change, but also I'm seeing more and more that, why have so many religions sprung up? Well, because people want something to believe in, to give meaning to your life, but they also want to have a community of people to relate to through your local Lutheran church or synagogue or whatever. The people are kind of craving the connection with other people. Uh, it's kind of a boring thing to say, I guess, but it's been occurring to me a lot that people really want this. They want some kind of structure, social
Mhm.
structure that they can get together with similar people with similar beliefs and connect and learn and grow and share and be vulnerable and open and get close to people and not have to be uh, faking it all the time.
Yeah.
You
I
guys,
love
before we
that.
dive in, do you
Yeah.
mind if I read an endorsement? Because it is also about a
Yes,
group.
please.
Um, and this woman, Anandi Gray, who's a licensed professional counselor,
Yeah.
wrote, "Hi, Dr. Burns. Just a note about your book, The 10 Days to Self-Esteem. I'm working with a young woman who lives in Eastern Europe, and she bought a digital version, which was the only way she could get it where she lives. She writes the exercises in the ebook, and it works really well. Also, although English is not her first language, she mentioned how much she enjoys your humorous, encouraging comments. Thank you for the ebook version of 10 Days to Self-Esteem. It's such a good book, easy to use, super effective, and it was my very first introduction to the wonderful world of Team CBT. And that was from Anandi Gray.
Well, thank you, Anandi Gray. We really appreciate your kind comment and the joy and good that you're spreading through your therapy efforts. And please give my warmest regards to your patient and say how cool it is that she made that endorsement and shared that information. And we're passing it on to our many fans, all 12 people who are listening to the podcast today.
And Brandon, you're about to start a new group that you've called Free Yourself from Mindless Tech Use.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
I'm wondering where you got the idea to do that.
Well, from a few places. The first inspiration was a patient of mine, and we can call him Elias, and he has OCD, and we've done a lot of exposure therapy. In fact, he does exposures every day,
Mm.
which is wonderful. But then after he had made lots of progress with that, he began to talk about that his phone, he just used it all the time in Instagram Reels, these short little video clips where he'd spend sometimes hours looking at those. And then he'd realize afterwards, gosh, I spent all this time and I would like to not be doing that. And yet I need Instagram to communicate with people. And so what do I do? And so, of course, having studied with David, I took a paradoxical approach and we looked at the positives of him doing that. And then we did a bit of a role play about what triple paradox, and we can get into that later. But he, at that point, wasn't very motivated. He couldn't kind of talk back to those reasons to be using Instagram Reels, and so I didn't push it. I didn't try to get him to change. He's also a very social person, and I thought that a group contest could be really helpful to him. Meanwhile, I was asking, so we have a baby who's now 21 months old,
That's cool, a little lion.
A little lion, yeah, who's met David before. And my wife Rosa and I were talking about parenting, and I've wanted to be a parent for 20 years, and I thought I'd be a really wonderful parent, and I think I'm pretty good. But I was asking her, like, what do you think I could do better in terms of parenting? Just wanting to kind of keep in touch with each other as we go on this journey of bringing up Lancito. And she said, I'd like not have him see you using your phone.
Hmm.
And boy, that just brought up a lot of sadness. And I realized that I was like using my phone around him, like looking at my phone, and he was experiencing me some that way. And it was for all kinds of different reasons. And I can give, excuses and reasons, but really I don't need to be doing that around him. And I don't want to be, but I was doing it kind of mindlessly. And so part of this inspiration for the group is for myself, for me to stop doing that, and also to give me motivation and accountability to stop doing that. And I noticed that, and this goes for a lot of my patients and a lot of people I see, that it's really easy when one's waiting in line, or even using the bathroom, right, to pick up your phone and look at something, whether it's checking email, whether it's a reel on Instagram or Facebook, whether it's some message or some news, or quote doom scrolling, people going through kind of negative news. And these devices were meant to addict us, and they literally teach principles of addiction in developing tech programs. And so I thought that I've heard that from so many people, and to be able to free ourselves from what I'm calling mindless tech use. A lot of times tech is kind of built into our lives, and we may use it for communication, we may use it for work, we may not be able to completely give it up. And so this group isn't oriented toward that, but it's oriented towards, in a sense, freedom, being able to make an intentional choice about using it or not.
Mm.
Can you tell me, since I don't have a cell phone, I'm probably more naive about this idea of what are we calling mindless tech use.
Yeah.
Give me some more examples so like elderly,
Yeah.
half-demented folks like me will know what mindless tech use is.
Yeah, so it can range from binge watching a TV series, watching something, and then the way Netflix and other online kind of TV programs go is that they'll just go to the next episode, right? And you'll have cliffhangers, and you'll want to see the next episode, and then you see the next episode. So some people stay up until 3 or 4 in the morning binge watching TV. It could be playing video games and getting consumed by those. It could be spending every spare moment connected to your phone. And it was heartbreaking. A few months ago, I was in a diner and I saw a family walk in, 3 kids, 2 adults. They sat down at booths, and the 2 adults just started staring at their cell phones. And the kids were kind of crawling all over the place trying to get their parents' attention. And the parents were so absorbed in their phones. I don't know, what they were doing with their phones. But so those kinds of things, to free ourselves up from that. And as I say, they're quite addictive. They principles of addiction, a substance is more addictive the quicker it hits your brain after using it. That's part of our learning. So if we're reinforced right after doing some behavior, we tend to do that behavior more. When cocaine was refined from coca leaves, it became much more addictive. Same with alcohol, same with heroin, and so forth, right? And they've used those principles in developing things with screens, so video games and TV programs and phone reels and stuff. So you get these short bites of something that can be reinforcing or can create an intense emotion, like news that's really bad. And that then kind of encourages us to do that thing again and again. And it can be very hard to let go of, and also hard to get perspective on. David, you've mentioned how the cognitive distortions can be, in a sense, the opposite in addictions. So, for example, if I'm depressed, I might have a negative view of the future, or I might mental filter and only look at the negative things. Whereas if with addictions, I might forget the consequences of something. I might filter out the negative and only look at the positive. So if we can take a step back and kind of monitor and look at our behaviors, which is part of what we'll be doing in this group, to get kind of a clear view of what we do, and do we actually want to continue using these things mindlessly, quote mindlessly, or do we want to develop more intention about it and also free ourselves to make a choice to use them or not, or how much we want those to be in our lives. And there's some great techniques that you've developed, David, in order to help us do that. And then, of course, the power of groups can also keep us accountable. We can have goals, we can sort of share that with each other, we can get support, we can do role plays in small breakouts with, for example, the devil's advocate technique and other techniques.
Well, I know the devil's advocate is really a fun one. And maybe we could just illustrate that right now, the type of thing if people were to join one of your amazing and fantastic groups, or maybe just one of your extraordinarily excellent ones. What kind of things they might be practicing in the groups, and that's one of the most fun role play techniques.
Yeah.
So
Well,
can we?
I have an idea. I mean,
Yeah.
I have during COVID, I started to watch this really stupid TV show called Say Yes to the Dress, where women go and buy wedding gowns.
Okay.
And even now, there are little clips of it there's videos that are like 3-minute clips. And I could sit on the couch and lose hours watching those
Mm.
3-minute clips of people
Yeah.
trying on wedding dresses. I
Yeah.
mean, And so when I saw your group, I thought, what an awesome idea. Because I totally do that.
Well, give us some tempting thoughts, Rhonda.
Um, well, this is really fun.
Okay, I'm going to write them down. That this is really fun. Mm-hmm.
Like when I'm watching, I like, oh, would I like that dress?
Mm-hmm.
I kind of want to try on a wedding dress.
We
What
can
else do you tell
well,
yourself?
we can
Yeah.
run off and what is it when you get married? All,
Elope.
yeah, we can still elope,
I
Rhonda.
know. Awesome. Oh,
Yeah.
I think, oh, maybe my wedding dress wasn't that pretty compared to these dresses.
Mm, mm,
Yeah,
mhm. And so when you zoom into that moment when you're deciding to watch it or not or to keep watching it, yeah, what else do you tell yourself? What excuses do you tell yourself? How do you decide?
Oh,
You say, this is really fun. I'd like to try that dress. I'm kind of curious. I want to try that on.
I'll,
What else?
I'll only watch it for a minute.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'll only watch it for a minute. Any other?
or well, that's what you tell yourself. I'll
Yeah.
only watch for a minute.
I'll only watch it for a minute, or I need to relax. This is a good way to
Yeah,
relax. I've had a hard day.
I love it. Yeah.
I mean, it's mindless. I'm not hurting anyone.
Yeah, I'm writing all these down. Um,
Anything else around it?
Michael won't notice I'm gone.
Uh-huh. Is there anything it says about your values in a good way that you're watching this, or the kinds of things, kind of person you are, what you're interested in, like,
I love relationships.
yeah,
I love supporting happy relationships.
yeah, yeah. And anything else you tell yourself at that moment, what that kind of justifies you watching?
I brought my daughter-in-law to this store. It's called Kleinfeld's. And actually one of our Team CBT therapists, Bob Schafter, who's might be listening, I think his
Yeah,
grandparent started this. One of his relatives I know started Kleinfeld's and is still active. So I could, every once in a while I think I could talk to Bob Schefter about Kleinfeld's, and it's kind of bringing me into the community.
yeah, yeah.
what's Kleinfeld?
That's the dress shop that
Oh,
this TV show is about.
oh, okay. And what this is one of the positive qualities we're working on right now.
Yeah, I can connect with Bob in New York. I can
And what
bring
does
my
this have to do with
daughter-in-law
Bob
there.
Schachter?
Yeah, Bob
His
Schafter.
Yeah, his relatives started Kleinfeld's.
Oh, I see. Well, they must be doing very well now.
Yeah. Yeah, I think they're the biggest bridal shop in the country. I don't know, in the world.
David, would you want to kind of tag team on playing the devil with
Oh,
me?
sure.
Yep. Yeah.
Sure, sure. Should we dive right into that?
Rhonda,
Uh,
anything
yeah,
else before we dive in, or shall we dive into that?
I think that's it.
okay. Yeah, could I talk to you for a minute, Rhonda?
Sure.
You know who I am.
You're the devil.
Well, I'm not the devil. I'm a lovely friend of Rhonda's, and I'm totally innocent, and
We want
I
the
know
best for
how
you,
hard
Rhonda.
you work. And you went and spent 2 months in Europe with your son and daughter-in-law and their two lovely babies, and you worked your ass off the whole time, and and now you need to relax a little bit. And so you deserve just a minute or two with your favorite TV show, Kleinfeld's, and it's say yes to the dress now, Rhonda.
Yeah. And so my goal is to challenge this thought. I'm talking back to this thought.
Yeah, if you
Right.
would like to, if
Yeah.
you would like to, you can see what comes up. You can, or you
Yeah.
can talk. Yeah, you can talk back to the devil. You talk with David.
And to my lovely innocent friend.
Yeah, to
You-
your innocent friend who wants the best for you, Rhonda.
Well, you're right. I worked really hard um, night and day uh, with my grandchildren and son and daughter-in-law, and I do deserve some mindless, entertainment to take my mind off whatever it is I'm thinking about. And watching this TV show takes my mind off it, but I don't need to watch it for hours and hours. That's too much time. If I could put a timer on and just watch it for 10 minutes, and that would be enough.
Oh, but Rhonda, you can. You can just watch it for a minute. It'll be easy. Just watch it for a minute and you love relationships, supporting happy relationships. Michael won't notice. You're not hurting anybody. Just watch it for a minute or two.
Yeah, forget that timer. Just turn the
Yeah.
knob and indulge in the pleasure you so richly deserve. Now,
He's so nice.
Yeah, all of those things are really true. They honestly, those are really true. But 1 minute can turn into 3 hours. And the next thing I know, I feel like my mind is numb and I'm completely drained and my feet could be falling asleep and I need to get up and take a walk. So in a way, it's better not to even watch it at all because it turns into this avalanche of other consequences that I don't foresee when I first start it.
Well, but you can you can stop. You can stop when you want, Rhonda. And also, even if you do spend a while, it's not such a big deal. It'll kind of bring you into the community. I mean, this is Bob Schachter's, you know, grandparents started Kleinfeld, for example, just one of the many examples. And that you can talk with Bob about that. This is such a connecting kind of thing.
Yeah, that's true. And it is really fun to talk to Bob about it. I've done that a couple times. And still, it's mind numbing. And there's a lot of other things I could do with those 3 hours than sitting on the TV. My eyes get kind of blurred. And, I can kind of feel my brain cells dying.
well, sure, that's all history stuff. But this is the new Rhonda who can sit down and watch for 10 minutes and then get on to other things and feel totally refreshed. And that's all we're suggesting to you is just to step into the future, the joyous Rhonda. And you can start now, but just reach over and turn that TV set on, use the external control and let's get that yes to the dress now.
That's so funny. You know, I have enjoy I've been there. I can like relate to I've gone there with my daughter-in-law when she was buying her wedding dress. I can completely relate to all those people buying dresses and um not to all of them. They do get a little narcissistic, but you know, like I said, the mind numbing is a little can actually get to be very uncomfortable. So I kind of want to give it up.
So who's winning?
I'm winning, but it's kind of a struggle.
Oh, really? Give us something else to tempt you with.
Um, it's just really fun.
Yeah, it's
It's
just
only,
really fun, Rhonda. That's all it is. And you can have fun now.
yeah.
Yes to the dress and done with fun later. We'll have
Yeah.
fun sooner.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah. It is
Isn't
really
it important
fun.
to you to have fun? Don't you think
Yeah.
it's fun?
Yeah, it is important to have fun. And there's a lot of different ways to have fun that don't like numb myself out and turn me blurry-eyed.
Well, sure, you can go out and shovel snow or sweep the front porch or something like that. Yeah, if that's your idea of fun, or you could, wash the carpets or vacuum or, you know, do the dishes. Is that what you
Honestly,
want to do?
no, those things aren't fun, but I could bake something or I could cook a nice dinner or um even just I have stopped reading. I'm embarrassed to say this. I've stopped reading as much because I'm watching these videos.
Well, you
And
can bake something and have the TV on in the kitchen, and you can watch your dress and
and make
bake your
cookies.
cookies all at the same time.
Yeah, that takes away the fun of baking, though. That takes away the fun of baking. And like I was starting to say, it's embarrassing to say that I've stopped reading as much. And I used to be a voracious reader, and I'd rather like turn off the turn off the videos and sit down and read a really good book.
Okay, who's winning?
That now I feel like I'm winning.
Hmm.
Big or small?
Big,
Big or huge?
huge.
Huge. How
Hmm.
did you get to huge?
I reminded myself what I could be doing instead.
Yeah,
That is equally as pleasurable, if not more. That doesn't have these yucky consequences of blurring eyes and mind numbing.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah,
So we're
thanks.
yeah, so we're really trying to tempt you, and then I love what David, of course, asked, like, what else could we say to tempt you, and that kind of zoned in to what might have been a sticking point, and then you were able to talk back to that, and you got to huge by reminding yourself of wanting to read again and reminding yourself like what you could be doing instead.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, that's beautiful. So that's something we'll do in our group. We'll do devil's advocate. We're going to kind of work up to that by doing some testing. We'll have an accountability form where people can kind of monitor. Um, we'll be doing self-monitoring. And there's also this beautiful thing of mission accomplished and stubbornly refused. So when people set a goal and then they report without any excuses, just simply say mission accomplished or stubbornly refused. But then, and eventually we'll be doing devil's advocate with each other. And that can be a way to kind of get the motivation down into the body, like where we really, we put ourselves in that moment of a decision, whether to use or not, in this case, technology, screens, and then can really challenge us and be able to talk back.
Well, I like to be very practical, and
Yeah.
I'm sure that this group is going to be chock full of wonderfully helpful tools that really are effective. And suppose that I'm, listening in Idaho or something, and I want more details about this group, like where can I go and sign up for it right now if I'm in the mood? How much does it cost? How often does it meet? What time of day will it meet? Like what are the specifics there?
Yes, thank you, David. So this meets from January 22nd to February 26th. So starting next week, as far as I know, in terms of when this podcast will come out. And it's at noon Pacific time. It'll meet for an hour each week. It's $30 a session, and people can contact me if they can't afford that, and we'll try to work out something. To find out more detail about these groups, and actually, let me just mention that we also use some other techniques. We use some hypnosis techniques that we'll do some recordings of, which is a good way to kind of help the body, kind of automatic responses of the body, create new associations. Also do some team techniques like future projection and things like that. And then we'll be working with the triple paradox, some problem solving, relapse prevention, and breakouts and the power of groups. So just to kind of add that in there. To get more information about this group and some other groups, which I can mention in a moment, you can go to feelinggreattherapycenter.com/educational-groups. And this group will be there, as well as our book club, as well as the 5 Secrets groups and other educational groups that we're doing. So that can be one link you can remember, feelinggreattherapycenter.com/educational-groups.
Educational what?
Educational groups, but with a hyphen in between it.
Educational dash group.
Yes, dash groups, plural.
Dash groups.
Yeah.
So if I'm in Idaho or Minnesota
Yeah.
or Albania,
Yeah.
I go to feelinggreattherapycenter.com/educational dash groups.
Correct. Yes.
And then I can find out about this tech addiction group if I want to tighten up my life and get in control of how much time I'm spending in mindless tech things, television, internet surfing, cell phone use all the time, whatever it might be, and find a lot of really helpful techniques, and then other kinds of groups too that you can tell us about in a moment. But one thing I missed, that the tech group will be noon to 1 each week, once a week, an hour with practice there. It's $30 a session. Contact Brandon if you can't afford that, and he'll help you out. He has a special for $29.95. But he'll help you whatever you need help with. And but I didn't get, you said something about it starts January 22nd.
Yes, through February 26th. So it's 6
So it's
weeks.
January 22nd through February 26th, and there'll be 6 sessions.
Yes, yes.
Okay. And what day of the week is it?
It's on Wednesdays.
Okay, great. And that gives me all the info I need. And what are some of the other kick-ass groups that I'll find there at educational dash groups?
Yeah, there's the Feeling Great Book Club, which we've been doing for a few years now, where I'm partnering with the wonderful Heather Clegg. What a fantastic teacher, person, and psychiatrist and therapist she is. And that is on Mondays from February 20. It's a 12-week group starting either on Mondays at 4 o'clock Pacific time on February 24th for 12 weeks, or Wednesdays, February 26th at 8:30 in the morning Pacific time. And that will provide for people in most places in the world to be able to attend. And this is a wonderful book where people read your book, Feeling Great, which is such a fantastic and clear book with tools for anxiety and depression to break through those, to live a more joyful and relaxed life. And we'll do expert demos, and you can join smaller breakout groups to practice what you're learning. That's sliding scale. It's $14 a session, but it's sliding scale. We won't turn away anybody for financial reasons. And that we want to make just really accessible to everyone. So we price it low and even go down from there.
And as you know, I've heard so many great things about the Feeling Great Book Club. Maybe I'll be able to visit one of them this time around and say hello and answer some questions for folks. But I know they really love it. And part of it is because you've been doing it so long, you've built up the teaching methods and the group morale building methods so that people go and really have fun, really love these groups and the social connections, but also some of the people who've gotten really good with the ideas and the Feeling Great book have become small group leaders. So you also get a small group experience in addition to the large group, because I think the groups can be as big as 80 or 100 in a group for the first section.
Exactly.
And then at a certain point you break into the small breakout groups for what, like 30 minutes for that, or how does that work?
Yeah, it depends on each session, but yeah, generally 30, 35 minutes for the breakout groups. And you're right, each breakout group has a facilitator, which is really cool, which is a treat. And those breakout groups are smaller, maybe 6 people, maybe 8 people, but that's kind of the maximum. So it's beautiful because people can then become vulnerable. We keep the same breakout groups each week over these 3 months, and then people start to develop more trust and security in that group, and they can practice some of the techniques. We also practice the 5 secrets during those groups as a check-in, which also lets people become more vulnerable with each other and develop trust. So people develop friendships and stay in touch long after the Feeling Great Book Club stops.
And that's $14 a group, which comes to about $12 an hour.
Yeah, I think it's like it's 168 total, $14 a group, which is, whatever that is an hour. It's 80-minute group sessions. So
maybe more like $11 an hour or something. Now, why would I want to pay $11 and go to your groups when I could pay for some team therapists are charging $500 an hour or $1,000 an hour, or I won't name names, but $1,200 or $1,300 an hour, and demand 2-hour sessions.
Yeah.
So what can I get in your group for $11 an hour session or $14 a session that I can't get in their sessions for $2,500 for a single therapy session?
Right. So in our groups, I think there is something about groups that can be really healing, having support from other people, being able to kind of chew through these ideas in your book. I love, David, when you write, and this is true with your app as well, you challenge people to do exercises and really engage with the material, and that's essential. And now we can have this big group where you can see demos of, for example, the double standard technique and other techniques. And then you can go into the small groups and you can like work on ideas. You can share things about yourself with your peers, which is a little bit different than working with a therapist. So I think it can be its own thing. You can do it yourself without therapy. You could also be seeing a therapist and do this to kind of supercharge your therapy. Any of that can work well. The other thing we're going to do is we're going to have some app specific breakout groups. So for people who are using your Feeling Great app, which is a fantastic app, by the way, we're going to have specific breakout groups. So some portion of our breakout groups will be just for people using the app. So then they can, work on that with other people and share their experiences with the app.
How great is that? So if you're a Feeling Great app user or plan to be, this is another way to speed your growth and learning. And I might say that the things I write, I always try to write clearly, illustrate things with an inspiring true story that brings it to life. But that alone, that book learning won't do it for you if you're struggling with low self-esteem and feeling inadequate and second-rate and inferior and worthless or anxious or socially anxious. You're going to have to do the actual exercises. And that's where a lot of procrastination blocks people from the opening the door to joy and inner peace and a transformed life. And that's where you supplied, Brandon, so brilliantly and with so much heart, as well as entertainment value and intellectual powerhouse value. A place where people can go and find that motivation and do that practice. It's almost like my writing is all about riding a bicycle and how great it can be. But you can read all of my books and you still wouldn't know how to ride a bicycle unless you get on and you fall once or twice and then you find your balance and then you practice riding and you get really good at it. And for that dimension of the learning, you can't beat Brandon's clubs for fun, for learning, for tears and laughter, and practice. And so if you kind of like the ideas that you're reading about or learning about in the app, and you want to supercharge a little bit your forward movement, so where things really start happening in your life, this is a great way to do it. And I often have said that the best things in life are free, and that's why I've always promoted AA. Is AA perfect? Not at all. They're very screwed up, to tell you the truth. But I can tell you this, if you've got an addiction, a hardcore addiction, you go to AA, they're going to give you something I could never give you in a session. And I can give you things that they could never give you. And so 1 + 1 = 3. And your groups aren't free except to people who need them, but they have that same power and probably more punch than an AA group. But they're dedicated to depression and anxiety and other kinds of problems that are also very painful and disabling to people.
Thank you, David. What beautiful words. It's so generous and kind of you, and I really appreciate that.
And Brandon, you also done a group for people who are working with the app.
Yes, we did.
What's that like?
That was fantastic. People loved the group and they absolutely loved the app. They felt really connected to the chatbot of the app that gave great empathy, and I think the learning modules are fantastic. So having them, it was a little bit like the book club. We structured it a little bit similarly. We did some demos. We had people do 5 secrets in the breakout rooms, and then they would work on what they're learning through the app also with each other in the breakouts. I think people generally loved it, those groups. and we get feedback after every session. So like you're saying, David, we get better and better over time.
Yeah, that's the neat thing. That's the neat thing about it, that measuring things. Most therapists hate it and refuse to do it, and they're sure missing out on the most clever secret of all to how we can grow as teachers and as therapists by getting data and looking at the data and seeing what turns people on, what turns them off, and then it gives us kind of a, you might say, a competitive advantage.
Yeah, I think it's great. And sometimes sometimes it's hard to see feedback if it's negative feedback, but it's a gift.
Yeah.
All feedback is a gift. It helps us grow and learn.
And once you've experienced the death of the self,
Yeah,
then it's no longer hard to get negative feedback because you don't
right.
have any territory to defend. I
Yeah.
heard through the grapevine that David doesn't get all of the credit for that book, Feeling Great, that he had some editors who worked tirelessly to go through that and give him tips on how to revise it and improve it. Do you know who any of those people might have been, Brandon?
Well, I know there were a lot of folks, but I did have the pleasure of reading drafts
Oh,
of that.
you're the same Brandon
So, yeah,
who edited the Feeling Great about 5 times, and I
yeah,
was so grateful for all the heart
uh,
and brilliant input you put in there. I remember you put in that poem, that
hmm.
kind of about some medieval poem about the Great Death. Do you remember that one?
A poem by Rumi. Yeah,
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 Rumi. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Do you
Oh,
remember anything about that poem? I think I put it in the book. What
Yeah,
was?
it was a poem. I think the one that you put in the book was called "Inside This New Love Die." Your way begins on the other side. Your life is covered in thick clouds. Slide to the side. There's this beautiful part that says, take an axe to the prison walls, walk out like someone suddenly born into color. Do it now. The full moon, the speechless
Wow.
comes out now, something like that.
That is so beautiful and so neat that you remembered that. And it sounds just like what we're trying to bring about with
Mm.
Team CBT. Instead of beating up on yourself with all of these, I'm not good enough, and all these
Yeah.
negative messages, you suddenly discover first that you're just being mean to yourself, like a bully bullying little children, that there's something very mean-spirited about doing that to yourself. You probably wouldn't do that to other people, but also that those messages are just as the Buddha so often described them, and he would stand on a hill and shout to his followers, it's all bullshit. Uh, and that's what he was referring to. And Rhonda has emphasized that I should use more four-letter words on the podcast, and I promised her that I would follow her advice. But it is exactly like in that poem that medieval poem. You're stepping to the side where you're not all having clouds in your sky,
Mhm.
and we had that Tom, that Buddhist monk on the app recently, and he's also going to be on our Christmas edition on coming out on December 23rd.
Mhm.
But he talks about, and you can't always understand what these wise people are saying, and it's even harder because he's from New Jersey. And you think that he's going to be from Thailand or Tibet or something, but he's just this really awesome young fellow. But he talked about, I asked him, can you be happy all the time?
Mhm.
And he said, well, clouds do come into the sky, uh, but the sun is always shining.
Mhm.
And the clouds are not the sky. So something like that. I just saw that was really neat, that it's like that poem. You can let go at any time you want. You can let that self die that's so committed to needing things and trying to be special and thinking you're not good
Yeah.
enough, and just let all of that die. And when you die, that is actually not a funeral, but a rebirth, a celebration, like a birthday celebration, or suddenly you're alive. And you have to have experienced it, I think, to grasp what it means, because people have tried to explain it for hundreds of years, thousands of years, and people can't get it.
Mhm.
But that's what we're trying to bring about with Team CBT, with your book clubs, with externalization of voices, with
Yeah.
all of these techniques, is to give people the tools to experience that kind of enlightenment. It's not about feeling a little less depressed or even a lot less depressed, but to feel joy. But can we feel that all the time? No, no, but you can't. That's humanly impossible, I believe. But you can learn the techniques that work for you, and you can make life an awful lot sweeter. So the ratio of joy to
Mhm.
feeling inwardly miserable changes greatly.
Yeah.
I don't know if that resonates with how either of you experience life and yourself.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's such a beautiful thing to see as we do some demos in the Feeling Great Book Club, even, and see some of these role play techniques you've developed are so powerful. And with enough
Mhm.
Yeah,
preparation, going through the agenda setting, and, of course, the testing and empathy, and then getting to some of those, you can see people just shift and accepting their own humanity, accepting themselves as human, and not having their egos be so much in the way. And
yeah.
some moments of, like, as you call,
I have
enlightenment.
a question for you, Brandon, because what you're teaching is as good as it gets. Did you ever wish you were like a Tony Robbins and you had 10,000 people at a time instead of 100?
No, I love working. I would love working with large groups of people, but I also love working with small groups, and also the combination is beautiful. So I'm very happy with how the book clubs have turned out, and that's really thanks to you.
Yeah.
Um, I
But aren't you
also
making
I've
millions? Or aren't you one of these guru guys with Rolls Royces and stuff?
that's not what turns me on. It's not what makes me happy.
Yeah, at $11 an hour, I don't think you're buying Rolls Royces.
Right,
And that's not your
right.
motivation.
It's not my motivation, but it brings such joy to do these. And also, as you were speaking, it reminds me of the five secrets, which is also a way to kind of lose our ego. Once we can truly disarm,
Oh, yeah,
have our
right.
ego step aside, that's having those skills is also a way to start to let our ego step aside. And
Yeah.
um, so to weave that into another plug for our groups, we also do these five secrets, what we call deep practice groups, where we have small groups of 8 people about, and we work with people in that group and with breakouts to learn the five secrets and practice those deeply. Sometimes we'll do a forced empathy exercise, and really help people hone these skills that are so helpful in terms of communication in all kinds of areas of our lives.
So those are like five secrets groups that people can join also if they go to this address, feelinggreattherapycenter.com
Yeah.
forward slash educational dash groups. Then they'll
Yeah.
find these five secret groups as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And
Uh,
and all people really need to remember is feelinggreattherapycenter.com, actually, because then you can find it there.
oh,
But
yeah.
if you want to go directly to the educational
Yeah.
groups, you can add that. But
So if you're listening here, and we don't often promote things too heavily on the app, but these groups are something we do heavily want to promote and push. So go and register now, buy now. And and the thing is that if you're kind of on the verge of something and kind of struggling and having some hope to change your life, and you've picked up one of my books, Feeling Good or Feeling Great, and you kind of get it, but you're not kind of all the way to home base yet, but you see there's something real there. uh, to joining one of Brandon's groups can be a really life-changing experience for you. It's not going to be costly. It's not going to cost you an arm and a leg. It's fun. They're sound, and they can be very life changing. So I just feel blessed to know you, Brandon, and so honored to get to do this kind of promotion, commercial promotion. We call this small time, and we're committed to being small timers. And so, if you want to change your life with the help of some loving small timers with powerful tools, join one of Brandon's clubs, and you'll be delighted and shocked in a pleasant way by how it can impact your life. Is that a fair way to put it, Rhonda?
It is a fair way to put it. I mean, I don't know many psychiatrists who run groups, and working with Brandon in the technology group, but also in the book clubs and the Five Secrets groups and the app group. I mean, you're working with him and Heather, who are both impeccable
Yeah.
therapists and trainers and such warm, loving guides to support somebody through their therapy journey.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Well, you both are so kind and it's so heartwarming, and I'm blushing here. So, but thank you so much, and just also for the ways that both of you touch so many people in such healing ways. I mean, it brings tears to my eyes to think about your work, David, over these decades, and also to the podcast that just really touches people and heals people.
Thank you.
We've had fun, and it's been such a blessing to get to work with you, Rhonda, and you've brought so much joy into the podcasts and
Yeah.
your personality, and you've
Awesome.
almost made us think you're important. We haven't gone that far with it yet.
No, definitely not
But
go that go to, yeah.
you've
Don't go
been a
that far.
fantastic friend and blessing, and you, Brandon, too. And I just feel so grateful all the time for what's happening in our community. It just it's mind blowing, and there's some really fantastic things coming up, and it just I just feel so lucky.
Me
And
too.
lucky to have all of you who are listening. And somebody asked me about the app. I don't know if it was earlier today or yesterday, and I was able to. It was yesterday, and I was able to say, the odd thing is we did a survey of our app listeners, and I was shocked to discover, and if you'll know if my memory is right on this, but Ron, it seems to me that the people who responded to the app, and it probably wasn't a random selection, and there were only 200 or 400 of them, but I think they were saying, most of them, that they've listened to every app since the very beginning. Weren't they saying that?
Every app, every podcast.
Every podcast, that's what
Yeah.
I mean.
Every
Yeah.
podcast,
Plus,
yes.
they've listened to every app in the world and translated each of them into many languages. But no, they've listened to every podcast since the beginning. It's hard to believe.
Yeah.
So thank you, all of you, for sticking with us, and thanks
And
for
also,
being with us in the past year and over the holidays. And we look forward to another just fabulous year for all of you. And we have all kinds of amazing and fun podcasts coming up. So
just to
thank you
say, the
so much.
podcasts are such a gem, and as a therapist, they reorient me towards good therapy every
Oh,
time
do
I
they?
hear them. Yeah,
Yeah.
they're fantastic.
Oh, thanks.
Good to know.
And I wanted to say, David, that meeting you has been the best thing that happened to me after meeting Michael.
Oh, the
And
podcasts or
no, meeting you and working with
oh, thank
you.
you. Thank
Yeah.
you.
And our friendship and just the ability to learn and grow with you has really been one of the biggest honors of my life.
Yeah, and it's just so fantastic what's happening now. It just seems to be on the verge of exploding, or kind of slowly exploding.
Yeah.
So I think, is that it for
I think
today?
that's it. And I just want to encourage, people who have a cell phone. I think everyone I know has a cell phone at some point feels like they've been involved in some kind of mindless use of it. So I think everyone who owns a cell phone could benefit from joining your group, Brandon, and
Or
learning and growing
anyone
with you.
who's addicted to any kind of technology, surfing or
Yeah.
binge watching television, or anything where you're
Video
getting
games.
sucked into video games, getting sucked into technology, and you'd like to little help getting out of that hole. Well, you'll find that in Brandon's tech support addiction group. New meaning of tech support.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So until next time,
Thank
thank
you.
you guys.
Good.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
everyone.
Thanks.